I love my new NAS, but I have a problem. It has a 2.5 gigabit networking port, and my Switch does not. I tossed around the idea of buying one of those sub $100 switches on Amazon, such as the Sodala, but I did not want to break my ability to be able to manage my network from anywhere in the world. I absolutely love the fact that I can pull out my phone, open the app, and make networking changes or monitor my network. I guess you could say I'm a Ubiquiti fanboy. And before you start blasting me, I know there are tons of haters out there of Ubiquiti products, and believe me, there are tons of stuff I would love for them to change. All we can do is make a suggestion and hope they integrate that into the next iteration of their OS. But I look at it this way: Ubiquiti is my favorite sports team, and we all have those. And guys, we don't give up on those sports teams through the bad times. We stick with them, and we wait for those good times to come back around. And I really do believe at this point, Ubiquiti is on the cusp of something great. So, guys, would you join me on this next episode of Homebrew Computing as we take a journey to one more networking upgrade for my home lab? Before we start this week's episode, let's talk about the coffee of the month. Guys, it's been just a little over a week since we opened this bag of coffee from Lavazza that we got in Chicago. Guys, it is everything they say it is. It is rich and full bodied. So if you're looking for a great cup of coffee to get your morning started or give you that boost of energy you need during the work week, guys, go to LavazzaUSA.com just to pick up a bag or start a subscription with it. That way you will never run out. Again, that's LavazzaUSA.com. So let's get on with the show. Before we get the show started, I first want to point out there are absolutely no sponsors to the show whatsoever, so I'm free to speak about these products however I wish. So, guys, that's right. I chose the new Pro Max 16 port PoE switch from Ubiquiti. As you've seen in my introduction video, I do talk about not wanting to break my ability to manage my network from anywhere in the world with my cell phone. I do enjoy that feature. So, yes, I stuck with the Ubiquiti line of products. I have it in my house. I use their cameras. I use everything Ubiquiti in my house, and I do really enjoy their product. But is this the switch of my dreams? No, it's far from the switch of anybody's dreams. It has a lot of cons, but the pros for this project outweighed those cons at this time. Now, we'll talk about some of those and we'll go over the pros of the Switch and stuff that I've liked and stuff that I don't like. So let's fall into some of the stuff that I do like about it. It does fall within my price range. Yes, $399 for a Switch is a little high, but if you look at everything out there that's pretty comparable, it is just a little bit higher than some and it's lower than the others. Yes, I could have bought, like I said, one of those cheap sold the switches off of Amazon for $89 and got 2.5 gig with 10 gig ports, but I wouldn't been able to manage that, like I said, from my phone like I love to do. So, next, it does give me the ability to utilize the actual 2.5 gig network that is on my new NAS, and also it gives me the ability to upgrade to a 10 gig uplink between my Switch and my Dream Machine. So, therefore, I will have more throughput. It doesn't increase my my internet, but it does internally increase my throughput between Switch and the Unified Dream Machine. Also, I have been using for years this little US8 150. So this guy is an absolute workhorse. I love the Switch, but it is showing its age, and this new Switch is nearly triple to sometimes, it's 4 times, maybe 5 times higher than the current switching capacity of this gentleman. So it is a all around better switch. I do get PoE plus plus, and I do get 2.5 gig networking. The one other thing that I would love to point out is the ether lighting. I've seen a lot of people ragging this, and I get it. There are some features that I would like for Ubiquiti to add in. I would love to. We'll talk about those in the cons, but as far as a network engineer, I do see a practical use for this. So let me give you an example. So I have 3 gentlemen who work underneath me as junior engineers, and there may be a time that I need them to go to the network closet and plug something up for me. Well, instead of saying going to port 1:48 or 38, whatever port I tell them to plug into, I can have the port pre-lit and they can go right to the closet, locate the port, and it would be flashing and they would plug right in. So I do see some practical uses for this, but it does come with its cons. This switch has a lot of them, and I wasn't too happy with some stuff that I seen, but I chose to go with it anyway. So let's go over some of the cons. All right, some of the cons that I was not too happy about, and I'm not 100% sure who made this call, is the external power supply. Ubiquiti, come on. I get that you're shooting for this to be a desktop model as well, but an external power supply, I'm coming from a US 8150 that had an internal power supply, and it was a little disheartening to see that you chose to do this way. I mean, couldn't you have widened the case up, made it a full rack mount, and installed the power supply in the case? Yes, absolutely. That is a kick in the head, because in order to rack mount this, you have to buy another $50 accessory that holds the power brick and extends it out to where you can actually rack mount it. All right, next. One thing that's starting to irk me about 2.5 gigabit networking is, if that $89 switch from Amazon can offer 2.5 gigabits across all 8 ports, why? What is the holdup for 2.5 becoming the new standard? Is it because it's still too expensive, or it's just not widely adopted yet out in the networking world? But a lot of these newer APs coming out are all 2.5 gigabit capable. So I'm not quite sure why the switch did not take full advantage like the 24 port does. I would have been happy with full 2.5 gigabit all the way across, and PoE and PoE++. So it would have been awesome. Again, here's another caveat. Why didn't they do it half and half? They could have upped the wattage to 200 instead of 180 and been able to supply PoE on plus on half and PoE plus on the other with a full 2.5 gigabit. I probably would have paid $450 for the switch if they had done that. Real easy. $450 would have been a good price if you had done that. But again, I am still perplexed at why only 4 ports at 2.5. Why not 8? For $399, you think you could have got a full 8 and maybe the PoE plus on the other 12 ports. So, that's a few of the caveats. I just don't understand it yet. Maybe I'm too dumb to know why it's just 4 ports at 2.5 gigabits with only 4 ports of PoE++. But other side, the ether lighting. So I do really like the concept, but you really do not have much control over it. Yes, you hit locate port, it lights up nicely, but other than that, you can't really turn it off. I mean, it's on constantly, and there's only the option for the port or the network. So I would have loved to seen a little bit more control. You can dim the brightness on them back and forth, but you can't completely shut it off. And I would have loved to have seen these actual network lights to have the ability to swap back and forth if these are not active lights, so they kind of condense it all to the back as where the actual lighting is from. The next one I want to talk about is their patch cables they sell for $4 a piece. They say you have to have those for it to work properly. And I will bring in a picture here so you can see. So if you can see, these are not their cables at all. These are actually just cheap, basically homemade cables with clear ends on them. And they do light through rather well. And I even went as far as on Amazon buying these that were supposed to be ether lighting compatible. They are no different than a regular clearing end. So I don't understand charging somebody $4 and saying they have to have those $4 ether lighting cables, which is incredibly high, by the way, for at least a Cat 6A pass-through cable. And I'm just a little miffed about that. So if you order one, it's $4 plus $13 in shipping. And that's ridiculously high for a patch cable that is no more than a clear end. So Do not rush out if you buy an Ether lighting switch and buy their $4 cables. Put a clear end on it and it shines through it just fine. But other than that, I do enjoy this switch so far. It performs well. I don't have any issues with that. Guys, that's about it on the switch itself. So let's move on to the installation of the switch. All right, guys, let's get on with the install real quick. So I wasn't happy with the videos I recorded because there was a lot of background noise and I didn't care for them. So I'm kind of doing a zoomed in video of the install so you can kind of get a gist of how the install goes. So unfortunately, not able to rack mount this device, and that is a shame. Like I said, that's one of the cons. You've got to buy another $50 part. Like I said, I'm not sure why they just didn't widen the whole case up and charge a little bit more, or just keep it the same price and install the power brick or the power unit on the inside of the switch. But nonetheless, I will not be rack mounting it. And after you get it to where you want it, if you are rack mounting it or you're just sitting on top like I am in this video of the Dream Machine, you will connect your uplink. You could go ahead and do like I did and actually plug in your network devices. It'll come up, you open the app, so let's bring the app up and you go through the adoption process. You see there's a new device ready for adoption. You click adopt and it will go through the process of adopting, updating the device, and then once it's all that process done, you can name it like I do here, and then you can start messing with ether lighting. What colors do you want 2.5 gig to represent? What colors do you want? What colors do you want 100? What do you want your VLAN colors to be? The only downside of the app, and even in the UniFi OS web-based version, you cannot actually set excuse me, you cannot turn those off, and that's kind of a shame. It is showing 24 hours a day 7 days a week, either on the Ethernet uplink speed or the VLAN, and I wish that would change. I wish you could shut it off. And like I said in my video, I wish they would have put the network activity lights in there as well, so if you shut those off you can still see the network. But nonetheless, the switch is fairly straightforward to put in. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on the install because, guys, surely you can do this part. If you're a Ubiquiti person, you already know how to do this process. And that is it for the install. So let's move on with the wrap up of the benchmarking and testing that we did. I actually got some good results. I'm fairly happy with it. It was a bit of a struggle to make that happen. So let's move on to the benchmarking. I kind of want to apologize for the audio before we get started with this section. So, yeah, I am sorry about it. I recorded with OBS and did not realize I had the gain turned way down. So, sorry about the audio in this video. Let's get on with the benchmarking. All right, guys. So, let's get on with the benchmarking of our new switch and the NAS that I have been waiting to do for a while now, for over a month. So, now that I have this 2.5 gig switch from Ubiquiti, it's the Pro Max 16 that just come out probably 2 weeks ago now, that once you watch this video or even after. I listed all the pros and the cons, and yes, it seems like the cons are outweighing the pros, but for my home lab, the 16 port is working perfectly, and I'm going to do a little bit of testing. Just a couple of things I wanted to point out. First, I want to point out I am using jumbo frames. I've changed the MTUs from the default 1500 to 9000. This allows for larger packet sizes on faster networks. It does work. If you go above 1 gig, it is recommended that you change those in Windows. So I did change that, and I set the switch to jumbo frames. I set the NAS to jumbo frames, which I changed those MTUs. And everything is connected up now with the 9000 MTU. So also I want to point out this is a different server. I had so much trouble with my other little homebrewed server. Now I'm running a Xeon and 32 gigs of RAM. Now this Xeon is in the same time frame as the i4 that I had, so it is a little bit more powerful, I guess, a Xeon is versus a desktop processor. So this is a server class. They both have the same amount of PCI lanes, and I'm not sure. I thought server CPUs had more. Maybe not in the Intel in this older model. They kept the PCIe lanes the same. But nonetheless, I am connected at 10 gigabit, as you see right here, and the NAS is connected at 2.5. Let's go here. I'll just show you real quick. So the NAS should be right here. I'm sorry, let's go to ports. It should be up at 2.5. So anyways, I thought it showed the speed. Let's go back to our insights. I got this up so we can monitor the CPU and memory on it. We're going to use Crystal Disk Mark to go to the share that we have on here. We will watch the send and receive. We'll watch the send and receive on the NAS. So let's get to it. Select a folder. I have one already here that's going to that. And we're going to do it with 2 jobs. And let's stick to 1 gigabit. Or 1 gigabyte in this case. So we should start seeing the sequential reads. We should start seeing it on the receive side go up, and we are seeing that. So it is maxing out that line. You see it out on the out as well on the NAS. So far, I mean, the NAS I built is a monster. I truly believe that. You know, I did spend a pretty good chunk of money, but for $1,500, you couldn't buy a NAS like this that was from Synology or from QNAP or TerraMaster or any of the others that are coming out. I mean, this is $1,500 everything. This is drives, this is RAM, this is the motherboard CPU combo that I bought. This is everything. You simply just cannot buy a NAS for that price that is this powerful. Let's see, we should be getting close to the, yeah. So this 4K write is pretty slow. Alright, we're getting ready for the writes. You can see now we're sending 2.5 gigs over to that guy. We can see memory usage is still sitting at 13%. See the packets going in and out, they're jumping up pretty good. Alright, that's it on the Crystal Disk Mark. Really good results on that. Maxing out the networking on it. So let's do one more little test to show you guys that it is actually, this is the share. So we will paste that in here. Give it all she's got, Captain. And she can't take no more. Again, really impressed. So while that's copying, as you can see, there's no need to sit here in silence. Guys, in conclusion about this Switch, is it overpriced for what it is? Yes and no. I've looked at several other Switches out there, and it's pretty comparable. I bought it mainly for the fact is I'm already a Ubiquiti guy. I already have everything in my house Ubiquiti as far as my cameras, my Wi-Fi, my switches, Dream Machine. I said, why step out of that ecosystem? I enjoy it. So I kept with that product line. The other con that really irks me is the power and the PoE budget. I wish they would have increased it to 200 and maybe offered PoE++ on all 8 ports and PoE Plus on the other, and maybe somehow shot 8 ports of 2.5 gigabit networking in it. That would have been amazing. I would have actually probably paid that $500 or $490. I would have paid $499 for that switch if they had done that. But you've got to buy a whole nother piece to rack mount it. So that's the cons on the Switch. But the pros, even though there were more cons, outweighed them for me. And guys, do I recommend the Switch? Yes, if you're a Ubiquiti guy at Home Labs, I do recommend it. But if you don't want to pay that price, there are alternatives out there to it. But anyways, guys, that's all we got for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like and subscribe to them. That way I can keep making this content. I do have some more exciting projects coming up. They are in the works, but that will end this series on the new Pro Max 16-port PoE switch from Ubiquiti. Guys, we'll catch you in the next one.